Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The American heavyweight Shawndell Winters has emerged as a possible opponent for Joseph Parker later this month for his next fight in Frisco, Texas, which is on the undercard of the Jesse Vargas and Mikey Garcia undercard. So Winters coming out of the woodwork here. This is being reported by Polish media. See here on screen. So Maciej Mishkin, who is a former fighter and boxing commentator, reports that Mariusz Wach may not be the guy. It could in fact be Shawndell Winters. So the translation is not perfect, but it says, however, not Mariusz Wach, who is hosting our galas. Shawndell Winters is expected to be Parker's opponent on February 29 in the US. And further down here in the thread from this, you've actually got Andre Fonfara weighing into the Twitter comments, and he actually says that he's confirmed with Shawndell Winters and his manager yesterday that he will be facing Joseph Parker on February the 29th. So the plot thickens here with this whole who will be Joseph Parker's opponent, because it was expected or potentially was going to be Mariusz Wach, who's come out publicly in the last week or two saying he's agreed to the fight, but he's yet to do the paperwork. And if you see here on screen, so he's traveled to the United States. He's actually working at the moment with fellow Polish fighter Adam Kownacki, who himself has got a fight coming up on March the 7th. That's going to be against Robert Helenius. So Wach has actually traveled to the States, is sparring Kownacki, and he thinks he's going to get the fight with Parker, or he believes it's just a matter of time. But you may recall David Higgins, when Wach came out and said publicly that he was going to be the guy, he would neither rule Wach in or out. He said he's one of four guys who's in the mix. And seemingly, Shawndell Winters is one of the other names that has obviously been negotiated with. And Winters, if you don't know, and I'm sure a lot of heavyweight boxing fans won't know too much about him, but he's an older fighter. He came to boxing late. He's got a record of 13-2. See here on screen, so he's 39 years old. He's 6'2", so 188 centimeters. And actually, he's coming off the best year of his professional career. So in late 2019, he got two good upset wins. One against Alexander Teslenko, that was in September. That was the unbeaten prospect. That was a fight in Canada. He stopped him in 5 rounds. And then in November, he went to Poland, so into the Lion's Den again, and fought Sergei Waweko. He stopped him in 7 rounds. And if you caught my end-of-year review, I actually gave Winters the sort of never give up award, because he had, obviously been sort of toiling away. He'd had a couple of losses on his record, but he kept going and going. And eventually he started to get a bit of credit in the heavyweight division, and obviously a couple of good wins on the resume. So in terms of Winters as an opponent for Parker, well, I don't think he'd be expected to beat Joseph Parker. He's a good, durable guy who's going to give you some good, honest rounds. Similar to Mariusz Wach. I was never predicting if they made that fight, and they still might. I don't think Joseph Parker is going to go in there and stop a Mariusz Wach. And he may not even stop a Shawndell Winters either. I think it would be a case, it would be a good, hard fight with Joseph Parker on the back of his slicker boxing skills and movement, would ultimately just outclass Winters. It might end up, if it's a 10-rounder, being something like 7-3, 8-2 in terms of rounds to Parker. But I could see that as being a good solid test. Maybe not the sort of fight that you could make a statement in, because I see a lot of fans are hoping Joseph Parker in his next fight, which is scheduled to be on that Garcia and Vargas undercard, although it hasn't been added to promo posters and such. I've been looking out for that. But a lot of fans are hoping and expecting he puts on the sort of performance to re-announce himself to the heavyweight division. But I just don't think this is the sort of opponent. Same with Wach. I don't think these are the sorts of fights where you do this. This is more similar to the Alex Leapai fight, which ended up being a tougher fight for Parker because he had to, go basically all 10 rounds before getting a stoppage in the final round. This is a fight like that where he needs some rounds, and he's going to likely get them against these two opponents. I think it's a lot. Parker is not a massive puncher, although they always sort of say they're working on power and other bits and pieces. I'm not expecting him to stop either guy. And if it was, I think it would be more through accumulation of punches rather than a one-punch knockout. But I think Winters, if he fought Parker, he would start sort of quite fast. I think he would be looking to sort of pepper Parker, but Parker himself, a very good chin. So I think he would have enough to take Winters' best punches, although I don't expect him to be standing there just letting Winters, knock him on the chin. Joseph Parker will use his movement, his speed, to try rack up rounds. And if the stoppage comes, it comes, but I think the win is the most important thing here. Bearing in mind that he's been largely inactive for the past year or so, just the one fight in 2019, that was his first fight of his new Matchroom and DAZN deal, 3-fight deal, that was against Alex Leapai. He signed in the June, he fought him later in that month, and then obviously since then the Chisora fight fell through when he got a spider bite and such, and now he's looking for bigger fights. But this one here, it does effectively serve in the Wok fight or Winters. It's much of a muchness. It's going to be a decent level tune-up fight for him to sort of get back to a bigger fight for his third and final fight on his current Matchroom deal. So I would expect this to actually go rounds against Winters and Wok. I know some people think that, Parker needs a knockout, but I don't know if they're lining up these guys, and seemingly they are. I think they're looking more for activity and for him to actually get the rounds in the bank, which I think will be beneficial for him. But yeah, Shawndell Winters, it's not a terrible opponent for a tune-up, and given that he's actually coming off a couple of upset wins, one against Alexander Teslenko, the other against Sergey Waweko, he's actually got a little bit of momentum coming into this fight, so I think he will fancy his chances better than he otherwise might have before those couple of upset wins. But I don't expect him to win if this fight is made, neither for Wok. But obviously Marius Wok, traveling to the United States already feels he's got the fight. But from what's being reported, Winters is currently another guy in consideration for the fight. And the fact he's also got a WBA rating, it's just in the latest update, he is number 14 in the WBA. You might say that actually could help Winters' favor here, because you can sort of sell it as Joseph Parker versus a ranked fighter in the WBA. And Joseph Parker is not in the WBA at the moment. So the top 15, Winters it's at 14, Parker nowhere to be seen. So you could sell it as there's a little something on the line here in terms of a ranking to get Parker ranked within the WBA. But it'll be interesting to see what happens and when, because I think Parker and his team must be waiting to see what happens with Alexander Usyk. And, is a belt going to be vacated? Could he fight Usyk for a belt if it becomes vacated? And that sort of situation has dragged on a bit, but, we're just over 3 weeks away from that fight night. So we'll see what happens with Joseph Parker in his next fight. But Shawndell Winters, another guy in the frame, apparently, according to Polish media. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.